Chapter 9. The Aftermath. By the time Nesrine and Arthur reached the house again, the storm had begun to loosen its grip. The wind still tore at the shutters, but its fury had dulled. The rain still fell, but no longer sideways. The sea, though restless, no longer roared with the same murderous intent. It was as though the storm had spent itself on the cliffs, on the man who had stepped willingly into its arms. Inside, Birkin House felt different. Not calmer, not safer. Just emptied. The officers moved quietly through the rooms, their voices hushed, their faces pale. They had heard the shouts, the crash of the wind, the echo of something final carried on the storm. They didn't ask questions, not yet. They knew better than to interrupt the silence that follows tragedy. Arthur closed the door behind them, leaning against it for a moment as though gathering himself. His coat dripped onto the floor, forming a dark pool that spread slowly across the tiles. Nesrine stood in the center of the hall, her breath still uneven, her hair plastered to her face. She didn't remove her coat. She didn't move at all. Arthur watched her. "You did everything you could." She didn't answer. He stepped closer. "Nesrine." Her eyes lifted to his, and he saw something he hadn't expected. Not shock, not fear, but a deep, quiet sorrow. "He didn't want saving," she said. Arthur exhaled. "Some people don't." "He wanted to be seen," she murmured. And when he finally was, it was too late. Arthur didn't argue. He knew the truth of it. He had seen men like that at sea, men who had spent so long fighting the tide that when the water finally calmed, they no longer knew how to stay afloat. Nesrine walked toward the staircase, her steps slow, deliberate. She paused at the bottom, looking up into the dimness of the upper floor. "He lived in this house like a ghost," she said, "and now he's become one." Arthur joined her, his voice low. "What happens now?" "Now," she said, "we gather what's left." She climbed the stairs, each step echoing through the house. Arthur followed, though he sensed she needed space more than company. Still, he stayed close. The house felt too alive to leave her alone in it. They entered the Birkin. The room was unchanged, the piano still humming faintly from the storm's vibrations, the books still leaning in their crooked rows. The photograph of Jane Birkin still smiling from the mantelpiece. But the air felt heavier, as though the house had absorbed the final act of the man who had worshipped it. Nesrine approached the piano and touched the keys lightly. A single note rang out, soft, mournful, almost human. Arthur watched her. "You think he played before he left?" "I think he said goodbye," she replied. She sat on the piano bench, her fingers resting on the keys without pressing them. Arthur stood behind her, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. "He wasn't born a killer," she said. "He was shaped into one." Arthur nodded. "By them." "By being forgotten," she said. "By being the one left out of the photograph. The one who never got invited to the terrace. The one who lived in the cellar while they lived in the sun." She closed the piano lid gently. "People break in different ways," she said. "Some quietly, some violently." Arthur stepped closer. "And some disappear." Nesrine looked up at him, her eyes tired but clear. "He disappeared long before he fell." They left the room together, the door swinging shut behind them with a soft, final click. Downstairs, the officers were gathering their equipment, preparing to transport the bodies once the storm fully passed. The house felt restless, as though it resented the intrusion, as though it wanted to keep its dead a little longer. Nesrine stood in the hall, watching the slow, careful movements of her team. Arthur stood beside her, his presence steady, grounding. "You should rest," he said. "I will," she replied. "After." "After what?" She looked toward the cellar door. "After I finish listening." Arthur followed her gaze. "To the house." "To him," she said. The storm outside softened into a steady rain, the kind that washed away footprints and softened edges. The sea calmed, its rage spent. The cliff stood silent, bearing witness to what had happened. And Birkin House, old, salt-stained, haunted, settled into a new kind of quiet. Not peace, not closure, just aftermath.